Hello there. May 29th is it's Democracy Day. Now, all of May, I'll be talking about national development, politics, and all of that. But as a teaser, as we get towards May, this last week in April, I've chosen to bring two young people to join me on set to talk about national development and interventions. Interventions being that there's always something you can do to make life better, not only for you, but for others as well. Now, these two people do interventions in very interesting ways. When we return, we'll start our conversation with somebody who flies sick people across the world, starting from West Africa and Africa. I'll be right back on the show with my two guests, if you don't go away. Welcome back. It's my pleasure to introduce my first guest, not only because she's a woman, but she's a woman that is after creating impact, making impact by first making money. But it's impact, money, and development. It's my pleasure to welcome Ola Orekunrin Brown now.
Yes.
To Seriously Speaking.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you.
Lovely to see
How
you
do you
again.
describe someone like you who at age 14, one of your heroes was Aliko Dangote? You know, I mean, how does a 14-year-old Nigerian British set off dreaming about becoming like Aliko Dangote?
I think growing up in England and being born in England, you have a different experience from when you grew up in Nigeria. So when you grow up in Nigeria, you see a lot of people that look like you in doing great things. So you see them in the Senate. They're all black, right? Because they all have to be Nigerian. You see your president, you see your vice president, you see the owners of the banks and the owners of the airlines and the owners of all your big companies, Nigerian. So you can kind of see yourself in big business. You can see yourself quite clearly in big politics. You can see yourself in any position of leadership. But I grew up in a really small, almost all-white town called Lowestoft in England. So the only people that I saw sort of in big business or celebrity, maybe Michael Jackson was one that I saw, but apart from that, I didn't really see myself in a lot of the people that have had achieved a lot, either in sort of the entertainment industry, in film, or in politics. So you can imagine like how amazed I was when I heard about, started engaging with the Nigerian media a bit more, and I heard about people like Dangote. He immediately became my hero because I was like, this is a man that has achieved something in Nigeria, a country that I wasn't particularly familiar with, but he had achieved something amazing.
So from then, you always knew you were going to come back home, did you?
I think a lot of the people that I saw, I wasn't certain because the idea hadn't formulated at that age, but I knew that, or I felt that Nigeria was a place that I could become successful because obviously we were a big part of sort of Nigerian associations in England.
In particular, Ekiti.
Yes.
And Ilawe, where you come from.
And they're very nostalgic. So our parents' generation, actually, first-generation immigrants, are very nostalgic about Nigeria and maybe romanticize it a bit too much. So all you hear is, I just need money to go back home. And you see their friends as well. So you see their peer groups and what they've managed to achieve in Nigeria. So, for example, some of my parents' school friends, like people that they literally went to school with and grew up with, are now like senior advocates of Nigeria and have achieved such great things.
Are they regretful?
Politics. I don't think they're regretful, but I think that as children, we see these things and it creates like this idea of success in Nigeria compared to England. And you see that, like, you see a lot in the media. So most Nigerian media, like when you watch Sky, the Nigerian channels on Sky, for instance, they're like, you know, owners of banks talking on those channels. And that's not really what you see in England for Nigerian, like, and no Nigerian in England owns a bank. No Nigerian in England owns an airline.
So for you, Nigeria had to be it.
So for us, we get a really strange view, I guess, of what is a sort of biased view of what is really achievable in Nigeria. So we romanticized it as well and thought, you know, at the closest opportunity. I mean, I left England straight out of school, so that was a bit
out of
drastic.
medical school.
Yeah, that was a bit drastic. But we definitely do get a romanticized image of what is achievable in Nigeria.
Even though you left England very early, you're already business-minded because you had this focus of trying to be successful. You'd sold all sorts of things, sold shoes and all of that. So where did that entrepreneurial drive come from?
Entrepreneurial drive. I wanted to, more than anything, I wanted to make sure that I had some kind of impact in the world beyond what I was currently doing and what I saw in my environment. And I'm not sure that it's so much entrepreneurship as wanting to be successful and wanting to make impact. I wanted to make some kind of change in my community, wanting to make things better and leaving some kind of legacy behind.
And you knew you needed money to do that?
Yes, definitely. So my foster mom, for instance, she died recently. She died at Christmas, and she brought us up. She raised us. She's a white lady, and she raised us. And one of the things, when I was giving my eulogy to her, one of the most worrying things for me was I really, really wanted to publish her story on my blog on Medium, because I wanted to make sure that she had a legacy. I was very, very worried about her legacy. I was very, very worried about people, coming in 50 years' time and not knowing such a great woman existed. So for me, legacy is really important. The way you leave the world behind is very important, and the impact that you had, I guess, has always been important to me from quite a young age.
I guess that's why Flying Doctors happened.
Yeah,
and decided to make an impact because it was Flying Ambulance.
Yes.
Very briefly, tell us what it's about.
So we're a medical transportation service, and I think most people would agree that people that die all over the world don't necessarily die because the treatment isn't available anywhere. They mostly die because they're at the wrong place at the wrong time. So what we do is try and get patients to the right medical facility within the right time frame so that more people survive injuries and survive medical emergencies. And within Nigeria, the right place could be Abuja, it could be Lagos, it's definitely not in some village with poor healthcare infrastructure. Within West Africa, the right place could be Nigeria, because don't forget that a lot of our surrounding countries don't actually have the healthcare infrastructure that we have. And we move people around West Africa as well. So we do transfers from, say, Liberia to Ghana. So a lot of our business actually doesn't end up in Nigeria.
And this was inspired by the death of your sister, right here in Nigeria.
Yes. So she was on holiday, and we had a medical transportation problem. We wanted to move her, and we couldn't. And I started thinking, compared to America, that has a very, very, I think the last statistic I read is there's 1 million air ambulance transfers in America alone. A lot of the companies are listed on the American Stock Exchange. Air ambulance companies are, really big businesses. Compared to Nigeria, where even in West Africa, we couldn't find an air ambulance, and we eventually had to look for the service in South Africa. I just thought that this could be my way of building that legacy and having that impact and saving lives in a way that perhaps hasn't been done in this region before.
Hearing your story, one would expect that, it must be very rosy for you here. You've not left Nigeria regardless, but let me take a break, and then I'll meet my second guest before we all engage. Thank you, Ola.
Thank you.
We'll be back.